So Andy, tell us about your film, Dick Knight.
Well, Dick Knight's about a young woman who has been left at the altar and is in the midst of a heartbroken depression, and she decides on this one particular night that she's going to get over it, and so she goes about, finding the right guy to have a one-night stand with, and ends up, with too many suitors for the deed, and then also at her house out in the middle of the desert with some maybe unwanted visitors who might be vampires. And so, that's the basic setup for what happens on this one night in the movie.
So what prompted you to make it? You're the writer-director.
Yeah. It's one of these ideas, I think, that originates really with a location and knowing that I could go and use this house that was kind of out in the middle of the desert in Tucson, Arizona, that I could go out there and take it over for a little while and shoot a movie. And so, of course, a house out in a remote spot, horror is probably the first thing that comes to mind. But I'm not, at heart, I wouldn't say a horror writer or director, much more in comedy-based material. And so, I sort of pushed that aside and then went to the comedy parts of it and came up with this story about this woman who, had gotten left at the altar and was looking for a one-night stand, but, the horror part just wouldn't leave, and I was still attracted to it, or even felt like, I have this house, it's kind of stupid not to use it for what it feels like it would be good for. And, I had been, influenced by certain movies that I did kind of like there hasn't been a ton of them, I guess, that movies that have a real shift in tone or direction that, comes a little out of nowhere. And so that was how I started to build this, comedy that takes a hard turn into horror territory, or comedy horror, or horror comedy. It's really kind of a comedy that turns into a horror comedy for a bit.